Hey everyone, this is Carbonite, bringing you another standard match. Today we are going to be taking a bit of a look at a more meta match. We have Gandiva on the left and Wilista on the right. I believe I have actually filmed this exact matchup before, but we do actually have my teammate on the left piloting our Gandiva deck. So basically just going to be doing our typical analysis. Hopefully this video does well. For some reason, meta videos tend to do very well as opposed to, decks featuring things like Lilifa, which I guess is understandable. But anyways, we do see the Gandiva going first, just riding. I believe we use that cycle card. Wilista is just going to be riding up. I believe also using a cycle card and then swinging at the Vanguard, hitting into a trigger, but also hitting into their heal trigger. Actually going to be calling down a grade 1 countercharger in an attempt to rush Wilista, which is pretty good, honestly a decent play. Interestingly enough, the Wilista is going to be taking both of these damages. Personally, as a Wilista player myself, I probably would have committed that heal that we just drove checked last turn to guard the Vanguard. No reason to risk a crit. You really don't need damage in Wilista. You need like 1 CB by the time you get to grade 3, but other than that, you can really just tempo the game very, very easily. And part of that is guarding early. So we'll see how much that extra damage is going to impact. But anyways, we are going to be riding into that grade 2, sliding in a critical trigger into the soul, which is definitely not bad. And then adding, of course, the gem to our soul. I believe we ditched the grade 1. I always forget her name. The one that's like on place, you give something 1,000, which considering the new ban list is probably something that's going to get slotted in into the deck. So it looks like we're just reading the grade 2. Not really a whole lot we can do to prevent it. Hopefully we have a couple Ramonas and that will allow us to rush, but it looks like we don't, so we're just going to be swinging for 15. Actually guarding for a 1 to pass, which is very risky, which it's actually going to end up paying off, I suppose, because there's going to be no drive check there. It's just going to be an Ophelia. Going to be riding into the Gandiva, using the skill for free. Of course, there is no board for the Gandiva to retire, so it is just going to be getting a bind 1, draw 1 off of that free skill off of the grade 2. So not the greatest. It would have been fine to like call down any Ramonas you had in hand. Just in my opinion, you want to kind of increase their UBDs as much as possible. Go for the 3-2 ratio if you can, but maybe we didn't really have the hand in order to do it. So that means that Gandiva is just going to be going off as we see the grade 3 coming on down, binding the counter charger, drawing another card, and binding yet another card. So another card that's going to be getting hit very soon in the ban list, or at least got hit in JP. And we'll see when we get that. We see the grade 2 coming down, CB1, binding another card and drawing another card. Swinging with the Vanguard first. We didn't really see the multi-attacker, but of course we can't even use it this turn, so I don't know why I bothered bringing that up. But swinging the 21 at the Vanguard, pretty difficult to guard, and we do not yet have the 5 bind zone, so it might actually not be a terrible idea to just take this attack. If we were still at 1 like we should be, we would really have no qualms about taking this. Unless it was me, of course, I would always guard that Vanguard because I always get double critted on the first Gandiva swing. Ended up taking like 4 damage when at 1. So we're guarding for a 1 to pass yet again. And once again, that 1 to pass somehow has paid off as we see a double blank from the Gandiva player. But the grade 2 is going to be swinging still in an 18, which is a very good magic number at this point. Still committing that 15k. And then, of course, this grade 3 is going to be swinging for a 21, just going to be guarding that. I feel like if you were going to take one of those, you probably should have just taken the first swing. Maybe you get a defensive, and then you can commit a 5k instead of the 15. But if you don't, you still only have to commit the extra 15 anyway. But looks like we're going to be opting to not use the Willis' skill on ride and just use the skill to check top 5, calling 2, and then of course we do get an extra 15k to Wilista herself, so she's going to be a very big Vanguard this turn. We probably, or at least I would say we hopefully already have the extra copy of the gem. Looks like we do have a pretty good call off of the top. We see a Ramona as well as a Yuika. Yuika is actually pretty essential in the Gandiva matchup because it lets you get all those grades off board. We see an Elvira coming on down. Well, I actually haven't played the the order. I don't know what I'm saying, but looks like we're probably going to be playing that order with the one Elevira. That's going to allow us to get 2 more cards. Elevira, another card that is now restricted, or will soon be, I should say. Calling down the Ophelia, as well as a heal trigger, which is definitely, if you don't have anything else to call, heal trigger is definitely fine. So we do have all 4 grades on board, but ideally we can get 2 of them off the board and keep our golden 3-2 ratio. We're going to be swinging the Ophelia boosted by the Elevira. Personally, I don't really like to do that. It doesn't really make that much of a difference. It's like a 5k difference, and I'd rather have it swing at a 36 and not even count for any triggers. The Wilista is going to be swinging for a 38, not drive checking into anything. The Vanguard is just going, or the Gandiva is just going to be taking it, putting the heal trigger back, which is very nice. It's always nice to be able to recycle your heals, as the Olivia is going to be standing at 28, which is still a respectable number in its own right. That's a 20-point guard. So realistically, the choice is really just up to you at that point. Swinging the 28 guard for a 15, as well as a 5k from intercept. And then we're going to see the Ramona swinging, and I think this is a pretty crucial misplay. I think that we should have used the Yuika skill there to bounce the Ramona back to hand, because now you've left Gandiva with 3 grades, which is probably the worst possible thing you can do. And we saw a best harvest played down, meaning that you've potentially given your opponent 3 or 4 draws, I should say. As we're seeing Gandiva actually whiffing pretty hard here, only hitting into a grade 2, but we still do get a bind 2, draw 2. Now imagine if you had actually bounced at Ramona, they literally have gotten bind 1, draw 1. That would have been extremely bad for the Gandiva. But unfortunately for the Wilista player, we do see the grade 2 cycle card coming down, counterblasting 1, and retiring the entire column. But that being said, the Wilista player still does have 1 UBD, so we are going to have to commit the 1 grade 3, soul blasting the other card, binding another rear guard, and then popping the Yuika. But of course, since we are under best harvest, we do get to draw through it anyway. But essentially, you've just given the Gandiva 4 extra draws when you could have at least prevented 1 of them. I mean, Gandiva probably would have been another draw just based on the top 5, but you really didn't know that, and you should have just left 3 grades. Watch my video. It tells you these things, and if you make a small misplay against Gandiva, yeah, it can really cost you the game. Anyways, we are seeing a 30k buff to the front row, so this grade 2 is swinging for a clean 40, which is a 30-point guard. So if we had been at 2 right now, we would have been in a much better situation for all of these attacks. We could bank on more defensive, but it looks like we're taking this first attack, not hitting into a defensive, but swinging at the Gandiva. It's going to be hit by a perfect guard. Interestingly enough, we're proccing both counter chargers, which I guess is fine. It allows us to call this grade 2, which we do lose out on a little bit of an extra power. Like 48 would have been a much better number than just the 40 by itself, but of course we are buying 2 more, so we're getting another 4k. And then of course, since we didn't manage to get the grade 2, we have that extra CBU that we got from using both counter chargers, so we get another 2k. So effectively, we're just losing 2k on the extra grade 2, which matters a little bit, but not a whole ton. But since we do have 14 actually, I think I might have missed how we got there. But anyways, we're still swinging for a 48, which is still a very good magic number. I think in all honesty, we kind of just take this because that's an awkward number to guard. It looks like we actually have the double front, so it's not that awkward. And it looks like it doesn't really even matter. Well, both of these are grade 2, so they're always going to be the same power. So both 48. But going back to Wilista, it's looking like this Wilista is going to be their last turn as we discard the cycle card in order to add back the gem order. Normally, I wouldn't always want to discard the cycle card when you have this much CB, because you want to actually be using the cycle card skill. So you do need the gem, but sometimes I would just try and keep the cycle card because it helps you make magic numbers. Hopefully we can get a couple of Ophelias off the top here, maybe a Ramona. We do need those attackers, and we do also need to refill that board. Looks like we got a Elevira and a Ramona, so very good top deck. We are going to be able to draw into more cards with that Elevira. So hopefully we can get an ideal board, but even if we can't, we should still be able to deal a decent amount of damage. But the real problem is the fact that we let our opponent get that many draws. You're just looking at the Gandiva hand, and that is massive. So some of those cards are definitely cards that don't have any shield value, but at the same time, you still have to deal 3 damage this turn, and you have 5 attacks that are massive. But with that, they really only need to guard like 2 attacks, and of course there are perfect guards, and if they just guard the first attack. So it looks like we don't get a booster for the Ophelia, but we did actually have a second copy of the Cycle card, so we are going to be hitting those magic numbers of 30 of 28, and then actually boosting the Elevira. Personally, once again, I think this is a bit of a mistake. 35 is a perfectly respectable number, and you're really only doing like a 5k difference, because like in that situation they would have had to guard with 38 anyways, and you basically just kind of wasted a little bit of shield that you could have gotten out. But the Wilista is going to be swinging, obviously being hit by a PG. We're going to see a critical off the top, which technically is what we need in order to win this game. So if both of these attacks connect, then the Wilista player will actually close it out. But Gandiva still does have the opportunity to get some defensives, and they still have a ton of cards left in hand. So ideally we want to get rid of as many cards as we can to kind of weaken the counterattack, but at the same time, if we look at the Wilista board, we've left 3 of the same grades, which is honestly like commendable. Like, you have to do this, you have to push this turn as much as possible, you have to try and close it out here, so it doesn't matter as much. But at the same time, it's like, oof, if you don't, things are going to be really bad. Now, the Ophelia is going to connect. That's a pretty big 53k number. But all Gandiva has to do is guard this last attack, and they will live to see next turn. So we see a 15k guard, another 5k guard, and then another 5k guard to block that 35k swing. Which I would have preferred that to be a much bigger number. You would have gotten like that extra 5k shield if they had it, and if they didn't, then that was GG's. But sorry if I'm criticizing the Wilista player a little too much. You know, despite what people might think, there is actually a lot of nuance in Wilista. So it's not everyone can just pick up the deck and play it. There is a little bit more to it, and as a Wilista player myself, that's honestly just what's getting to me right now. Just that fact that I know so much about the deck. But now we're in the late stages of a Gandiva turn, so even though we still have a sizable hand, these attacks are just going to be way too massive, and the fact that there's 5, considering there's 2 multi-attackers, is just going to be too much for the Wilista to handle. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.